Good afternoon. This is a Dvar Torah on Parashat Vayishlach. It's a very extremely eventful parsha. I will start with a summary and then go on to a couple of specific points I'd like to discuss. And the parsha opens with Yaakov sending angels to Esav with a tribute and offering to him to try to win favor with Esav. And the angels come back and report that Esav's coming with 400 men. Yaakov becomes fearful. An interesting question, why, since he was righteous? It's because Esav did honor one mitzvah totally, which was kibbud avim, and he thought that might be enough to equal all the positive mitzvahs and learning of Torah that Yaakov did. He divides the camps into two, so that if he strikes one, some of his children and a couple of his wives will at least escape. Then what happens is he goes back across the Yabuk River to recover a couple of small vessels. According to some sources, those vessels contained the oil which eventually was going to be used in the Hanukkah miracle, which will be coming which will be starting next week. In any event, the angel, he fights with an angel all night. The angel can't defeat him, but does wound him in a Gita Nashadu and sciatic nerve, and therefore that's why normally the lower half of an animal, cow, whatever, is not eaten unless it can be taken out, which is very complicated work. And this angel, who was this angel? This was Esau's angel, and that was the Yetzer Hara, the one who tempts people, who's still battling with him today, and will be to the time of Zman Mashiach, when he will be brought totally under control. And therefore, since at the end of the battle, Yaakov asked for a bracha, blessing, the angel gives it to him. The angel gives it to him, and the question is, Yaakov asks his name of the angel says, you don't ask my name, because the angel has a different name for each mission. However, according to some sources, it says that the angel said, my name is, you don't know my name. In other words, he represents deception. And because people would not commit various sins if they truly realized the consequences. So that's, so the next day, now that the angel, then the angel says, your name from now will be Israel. Now, Israel, as explained in a number of places, including Likutei Torah, is that is the elevated name Israel with additional spiritual qualities. And it says that Israel, when he's in that level, Yaakov's in that level, represents is the collective, equal to the collective of all the other Avot and Imaot. That would be Leah, Rachel, Bilhah and Zilpah, Yitzhak and Rivka, and Abraham and Sarah. So Yaakov is central. The confrontation happens the next morning. They wound up hugging each other. What's a debate whether that was Esav's original intention. And in any event, Esav agrees to makes peace with Yaakov. He wants to accompany him or to leave some of his 400 men with him. In any event, Yaakov uses the side effect of his children, and his animals could not handle it for a quick march at the pace of Esav and his men. And therefore, he says, eventually, I'll meet you in Mount Seir, which is the location of Esav. By the way, Esav eventually mixes together with Edom, and Esau and Edom come together with become eventually the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. And we're still battling with confronting its offshoots, which first was the Catholic Church, and now the nations of the Western world, both Eastern and Western Europe, among others, and Western Hemisphere, the British Commonwealth. And he then shows us to introduce children to Esau, all of them bow down to him 7 times. Yaakov bows down to him 7 times, which he shouldn't have, but because he did that, Esau and his descendants were able to subjugate us, dominate us for 7 times, this being the 7th one now. And he hides Dinah, which was very unfortunate, because if Esau had married Dinah, he might have been able to, she might have been able to turn him back to the righteous ways, and the whole history of the Jewish people in the world, for that matter, would have been very, very different. He didn't. Instead, unfortunately, Shechem kidnaps and molests Dinah, his daughter, and in the follow-up, it goes with Shimon and Levi after the members of the community agree to get circumcised, rescues Dinah, not only wipes out Shechem and Hamor, the son who actually kidnapped and molested Dinah, but also with the father, but all the males of the city. It's a big debate between a Rambam and a Ramban whether that should have been done. It led to the separation of Shimon and Levi when the land was distributed. Because of the ranking, they weren't allowed to be in one concentrated area like the other tribes. In any event, we then, there's a death of Rachel on the way to Beit Lechem. She's giving birth to Benjamin, the final son of Yaakov. He then goes up to, he's then given a command, and he is supposed to start is getting a new covenant, however, with God. However, Reuven either moves Bilhah's bed, Yaakov's bed, out of Bilhah's tent after Rachel died, or may have been with Bilhah. Either way, it created a major change. It allowed only 12 tribes. If it hadn't been for him moving that bed, Yaakov would have been with Bilhah that night, and the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh would have been born then. As explained, the Kuti Torah, but not in the next generation, to Yosef. In any event, the Parashat then goes on with an incredibly long genealogy of Esau and his descendants, and that is how the Parashat ends. Now, what I would like to talk about is this whole concept. Yaakov says he's going to meet Esau at Mount Seir, which was the year because Eretz Israel and Eretz Canaan could not bear the combined, they haven't resources that can bear both Esau and Yaakov and all their people, wealth, animals, servants. The land could not sustain both of them. Esau moved to Mount Seir. Now, question I'd like to address here: was Yaakov telling the truth when he said he was going to go to Mount Seir? Was Yaakov represents the qualities of different boat? He represents Emes and Torah, truth and Torah. So the question is, was he lying? And the answer is no. He didn't say when he was going to go to Mount Seir, and he will be there at the end of days. Now, we have been in the fourth exile now for almost 2,000 years, scattered through many countries of the world. And the question is, what will be the end of Esau? We're coming to the birth pangs of Mashiach, the ultimate Redeemer, descendant of David and Melech, and what's called Eka Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach. We're coming to that era. So what exactly is going to happen to Esau? It first describes in it's this week's Haftorah. Every Torah portion is a Haftorah, and this is Obadiah. It's the only one chapter, Navi, prophet, and it talks about how they will be pulled down, and no matter how high Esau venom rises, and it's been, especially in this century, unparalleled material prosperity, he will be brought down. I recommend the chapter of Obadiah. But at the end, and he's saying that all the nations will do, Hashem says all the nations will disappear in a prophecy. But it says, Pasuk 17, Obadiah, Bahar Zion Tihir V'Pleita, V'Her Kodesh Yerusha Beis Yaakov, and Morasham. But on Mount Zion there should be a remnant, Har Zion, and it should be holy. In the house of Jacob will inherit, be its inheritors. Isaiah Bachov Aish, and Beis Yosef Lahava, and Beiso Esav Lakash, Videlko Behem Beachlin below the air, should read Beis Esav Kieran Dever. And the house of Jacob will be like a fire, and the house of Yosef a flame, and the house of Esav like straw. They will kindle among them and consume them, and there will be no survivor at the house of Esav, for Hashem has spoken. Now, this means, it talks about him as house of Yaakov. Talks about Beis Yaakov, house of Yaakov will be a fire, and the house of Yosef will flame. That's alluding to Mashiach ben David, ultimately, and Mashiach ben Yosef will be, or Mashiach ben Ephraim will descend from Yosef and Ephraim. With the Mashiach ben Ephraim will lead the people back into the land, which is in process now. And after the final fall of Esau, in which Yaakov will be participating, house of Yaakov will be participating, there'll be nothing left. It's comparing Esau, house of Esau like straw. They will kindle them and consume them. Now, I'm going to get back into that in a couple of minutes, why this analogy is straw. But before I do, I would like to just go through some of the other images. And what is amazing here, there's intertwining of Esau and Ishmael, and what's going to happen to them in the end of days. Esau and Ishmael, there's images. First of all, in chapter 2 of the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar has a vision of this giant statue with the legs of which represents the fourth exile, is legs of iron, but feet of clay. Famous expression, he has feet of clay. And what is that in fact referring to? That is the fourth empire of Esav and Rome, but why two legs? Why isn't one leg enough? Because it explains one leg represents Esav and Rome, the other one represents Ishmael. What is the connection between them? Well, one of them is that when Esav saw his parents didn't approve of the Canaanite women, he married the daughter of Ishmael, so therefore there's an intertwining between the two, which is relevant even today, as we're seeing. And in any event, that's one analogy. In the 7th chapter of the Sefer, the book of Daniel, it is talking, 7th book of Daniel, it will talks about the ancient days. There'll be a throne set up, ancient days referring to Hashem, fires will flow, and the exile, final exile, the huge monster creature will be destroyed. And then there'll be the 5th kingdom, which is the kingdom of Mashiach, where Hashem will rule the world openly. And that's another comparison. Now, finally, I would like to quote this is based on the Rav Shimshon Master Koli and the collection of his works, Sosi Shimshon, and this is coming from the pasuk actually from earlier Parsha, and told us Idel Narim Hu Esav Ishzodes Sayed, and he was a man who knew how to trap. He was a man of the field. Well, Yaakov was a man of the 10th learning. Now, we're going to see referred to in chapter 1 of Tehillim, verse 3 and 4. It's dealing with Rishoyim, and among other things, it's talks about Melech and Teven. Straw, salt and straw, how are they relevant? And the explanation he gives is that, first of all, that the word Melech is the root of the word Machlat, the Bat Ishmael, the one that Esav married, and that's where it comes in the intertwining between the Bnei Esav and the Bnei Ishmael. And it's also talking about bottling the Koach of Malchus Beis Ishmael, which is beyond this Devar Torah. And so, how does Esav try tricking Yitzhak to show how religious and concerned he is? He asked, what Maisa do you have to take on Teven, the straw, and salt? Now, neither of those do it. He knew it, but he was trying to impress Yitzhak on just how religious and how concerned he was. And he then goes on to explain how Melech and Teven are relevant to Ishmael. What's Ishmael? Because Malach is the main shorish of the word Machlat, and Teven has got the gematria of Ishmael. So we see here And we're going to be getting into reference back into Tevin shortly. So therefore, that represents, and it's ultimately going to lead to the destruction. Now he goes on to explain that who are the two main Rishoyim, Rosh and Shemastropoli. He explains that they are Adam and Ishmael, which he bases on a Zohar and Parashat Vayishlach. And they're also the leader of the 70 nations, which we see now. Bnei Ishmael represent one force, and the Bnei, very powerful and very rich in the Western world. Bnei Esau represent the other. And it says in the body that he is effectively the Kesh straw, and Tevin, which is another flame of straw. And the Gematria Ishmael is in there with the word Tevin. And what are we going to learn? That both of them are ultimately going to be consumed. The power of the Ishmaelites will be eliminated, and so will the power of Esau and Rome. We are definitely in momentous times, Echad Mashiach, or thanks Mashiach, but realize that everything is coming, that God is running the world, and everything is starting to develop as it's supposed to, with the conclusion being the arrival of Mashiach. May we all be safe and strong and have the Munam and Patakan to realize that Hashem is running everything and is everything that is happening for the good, even though it's very hard sometimes to see that in the current situations. In any event, I would like to wish everybody a safe and healthy